And on this episode, we're going to be going over the cost of waiting as it relates to the real estate market. Often the American dream is associated with home ownership, whether that's your primary home or that investment property or having that vacation rental. Home ownership has been the ideal thing that we put on a pedestal. And whether we realize it or not, there's three things to really consider here. One, buying the actual property, the hidden costs of waiting. If prices are going up, what's going on with interest rates, and when an interest rate decrease actually means over the long term. A lot of people believe that the smart move is to wait till the rates go down, or the market's going to correct here. I'm just gonna wait till the prices cool off. And surface level, that sounds great, very topical analysis on it. However, when you dig deeper, that's where we get to the pain points, the math on it. So why does real estate matter? For most Americans, this is where a large portion of their net worth is derived from. And for people who are retirees, maybe they're looking to tap into that home equity to assist with, selling and moving to their retirement home. Or two, I'm getting a reverse mortgage to go pay for my long-term care. Or, it's just a great way to build your wealth, especially here in America, but maybe elsewhere this might be applicable. So when you buy a home, there's three financial factors, forces, if you would, at work here. One, appreciation, the property increasing over time. So far, we can look back at historical trends in between 3 to 5%. We can kind of see that homes grow. And then you're gonna have your principal reduction. So the home is going up because that's what time is doing. It's appreciating in value. And then as you're paying down the mortgage on it, then your equity is also building because the principal on that mortgage is being driven down with each payment that you're doing. And ultimately, the third one is leverage. Leverage, that mortgage that allowed you to go buy that $500,000 home with just tens of thousands of dollars. That's what it allowed you to go do. So leverage. Now let's kind of go look at some numbers. So going over here to a little whiteboard, let's say we buy a home today, $400,000, 4% annual appreciation. In 1 year time, that $400,000 home is now $416,000. In 5 year time, now we're looking at $286,000. In 10 year time, now we're looking at close to $600,000. And all you had to do was just live there and pay the mortgage. Debt's going down, your equity's going up, and it creates this bigger spread for you. It's an asset. The growth happens whether you're actively really doing anything or not. That's the power of time. Now, the second part in this whole conversation is I am waiting for the market to correct. And what if it doesn't correct? I remember when I was first trying to get into the market, everyone was telling me oh, 08's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. But so much time has happened since 08. At this juncture, it was around 2014. And then I was like, oh, it's gonna crash again, it's gonna correct. There's no way this is sustainable. Fast forward a decade later, here we still are, still growing and still booming. But I have now lost out on the time value of money on that to grow. Luckily for me, I bought there around that time. But going back to our examples, let's imagine two buyers in this situation. Buyer A, he's gonna go ahead and buy that home, $400,000. And then buyer B, he waits 2 years because he's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna sit on this pile of cash. And maybe he's hoping for better rates. But let's just say everything grows by 5%. That $400,000 home, year one is now worth $420,000. Year two is $441,000. Buyer B, he didn't do anything different, he just waited. But now he has to pay an extra $41,000 in additional price increase for him just waiting. So what does that mean for him? Larger down payment, higher loan balance, and more interest paid over the 30 years. And even if the rates drop slightly, the buyer is financing a larger amount. You're married to the price, not to the rates. Because ultimately you can always refinance later on when the rates go down. But whatever you buy the home in, you're locking in that price. Whereas back to our scenario, buyer A over here, over those 2 years, now he has the appreciation and he's paid down some of the principal. It's important to really understand how interest rates are going to play in the long term. Because a higher interest rate is going to mean that we're going to pay, more interest versus lower interest rate. If I had to compare 7% interest rate versus a 2% interest rate, and you look at the amortization schedule, like 90% of your payment's going to be interest. or the higher one. Whereas the lower one is going to be, maybe a little bit more than half is going towards interest, but it's still a good portion of it. However, we're not married to that rate now, are we? We're married to the price. So let's go back to this example of the $400,000 home. We have 20% down. Our loan amount is going to be $320,000. So P&I, that's going to be principal and interest, is going to be around $2,075. And we imagine that's at 6.75%. If it drops down to $575 the next years, but the prices rose, going back to it going to be a depreciating asset to 440. That 440, if I try to buy it now, 20% down, my new loan value is $352,000. My monthly payment is going to be around $2,055. So what happened here? Yes, I have a smaller, monthly payment. However, I had a larger down payment to go get because the price appreciation happened. And because I have a larger loan, that means more interest over the time. Even though my monthly payment barely changed, the total price increased significantly. Lower rates doesn't mean automatically affordability, especially when the prices are going up. Prices going up, rates are going down. I'm more worried about the prices because I'm married to the price, not to the rates. I can refinance later, but after I lock in that price that I purchased, I can't renegotiate that. That's the price I bought. That's the debt I have. So once again, rates drop in the future. Buyer A in this scenario can always refinance. Buyer B cannot turn back the hands of time and say, hey, I want to get that guy's purchase price on the home. And overall, the long-term strategy on this is, let's think, 10 years out in advance. Very often than not, we get so caught up in the very immediate future, 1 to 2 years, what's going on with us. But thinking about 10 years, a whole decade. Buyer A, he bought the home at $400,000. It's growing at 4%. That 10 years, we're just a little shy of $600,000. Significant equity built because it has appreciated and he's paid down the principal. Buyer B, he bought at $441,000 and the same growth. We're now looking at $652,000. But he paid up more and financed more. So there's an economic loss there. Buyer B needed more cash. He had a higher loan balance, and he's going to ultimately pay more interest over time. The difference, not just monthly, but it's lifetime cost and opportunity that's lost when we weigh out trying to see and time the market for variables that we cannot control. What we can control is when I'm going to go do it. When am I going to move? When does it make sense? Because you don't want to buy something that's outside your price range too. So maybe you have to tailor your own goals and objectives to fit in your price point that makes sense for your financial situation. And maybe we don't go ahead and we buy that fourplex and try to do something too fancy and we overextend ourselves. But getting a home within our financial plan that is cohesive with everything else. Can I afford to wait while prices and missed equity opportunity are working against me? The real estate rewards in a time market is not the actual self, but rather it's going to be just getting in there and letting time work. It's great if you had a lot of cash on hand, '08 happened, and you're able to jump in and purchase a lot. But for 90% of Americans, that's not gonna be our reality. You're not gonna be able to time that kind of market crash. And we hope there's not gonna be anything significantly like that in our future. But buying when you're financially prepared, even in a high interest rate environment, it often puts you in a stronger long-term position than waiting for a moment to come by that may or may not ever come. Rates change, prices tend to move in one direction over time, and the cost of waiting is very real, even if it's not obvious at first. I hope you found this very informative, and feel free to connect with your financial advisor on this further.